I'm making this record as a warning to all who may come across it. Never, never attempt to enter the catacombs of Paris through secret passage that lies hidden beneath the streets of the city. For within those dark and winding tunnels, there is something inexplicable and evil that resides, the forbidden tunnels lurking beneath the city of light. First, I would like to point out that the people I will mention here have had their names changed with the intention of protecting their memories and their identities. I hope that my decision is understood and respected by all. With that in mind, I will now begin the account of my Paris catacomb experience that forever marked my life. Like any other young person my age, I was very adventurous and loved exploring unknown places, always looking for thrills and challenges. My parents were always very strict with me, forbidding me to go to places they considered inappropriate, like parties and going out with friends. I felt trapped, like I was being deprived of experiencing the outside world like other young people, which only fueled even more the desire to venture outside the limits imposed on me, and that I was going somewhere. But I was breaking into an abandoned house or exploring some tunnel or underground cave with my friends who shared the same interests. But that wasn't enough. I wanted to go further, see new things, and feel more of that butterflies in my stomach that only adventure can provide. That's why when my friend Zach called me and said he'd discovered a location on an unsealed sewer entrance to the catacombs of Paris, I was all for it. If you've never heard of this place or have only a brief acquaintance, the Paris catacombs are a gigantic underground network of tunnels and galleries that extend for about 300 kilometers under the city of Paris, France. The catacombs, originally built as quarries around the 18th century, were turned into public ossuaries in the late 18th century and are currently visited by tourists as a historical and cultural attraction. The catacombs contain the remains of millions of Parisians who were moved there after the city's cemeteries closed. Due to their age and fragility, the catacombs have strict access rules to protect cultural heritage and the safety of visitors. In addition, the catacombs are a real underground labyrinth. It's not difficult to get lost in there. For these reasons, visits are highly regulated and controlled. Entering the Paris catacombs beyond the permitted areas for visitation was strictly prohibited. Violating this rule could result in fines and other legal penalties. I should have stopped there, but at that time all my rebellious mind had in my head was everything forbidden tasted better. We called another friend, Sebastian, and started planning everything. When are we going? What would we take, and how would we not get lost? The last one was solved by Zach. We would use luminescent paints. And yes, when I look back, I realize how stupid this all was from the start. I don't remember what lie I told my parents, but they believed it, and I was able to meet my two friends without any problem. Entering the catacombs of Paris through a secret entrance in the sewers was always going to be the adventure of a lifetime. I was very excited and looking forward to this adventure, so different from the ones I've done before. Zach led the way. He took us down to the sewer where the entrance to the ossuary is said to be. It took us about 20 minutes to find that entrance, because Zach actually didn't know of a location at all. He just heard a rumor that there was an entrance here. The entrance was narrow and dark, with only a shaft of light coming in through the crack at the top. Zach was the first to enter, followed by me and Sebastian. We managed to smell the strong and unpleasant smell of sewage in our nostrils, but that didn't stop us from moving forward. It was then that we saw a steep staircase leading even deeper. We walked down the stairs cautiously, carefully watching each step we took. The sound of water running through the pipes echoed throughout the place. But that didn't bother me. After all, I was focused on finding something new. We arrived in a huge underground room with dirty, damp walls and a slippery floor. The flashlights we carried illuminated only a small part of the room, and the surrounding darkness made it even more frightening. At first, I wasn't sure if we were entering the ossuary or if it was just one of the sewer corridors, but then our flashlight beams began to reveal a few bones here and there, until an entire walls adorned with bones and human skulls gave us a macabre welcome. As we made our way deeper into the catacombs, the air grew stale and musty. The damp walls seemed to close in around us, and the darkness was all-consuming. But instead of feeling afraid, we feel like those brave YouTubers with channels aimed at urban explorers who enter forbidden places like this. And that was amazing. The Paris catacomb was an incredible gallery of macabre art. It was impossible to deny the morbid beauty of that place. The walls were lined with stacked skulls and human bones, forming grotesque and frightening images. I couldn't help feeling that I was being watched through the hollow eyes of hundreds of skulls. I grabbed my cell phone and started filming around, capturing every detail of the historic structures, until an eerie sound echoed through the dark tunnels. Everything was silent, until Zach said, "Relax, you pussies. It must have been just a car passing overhead." He emphasized his statement by pointing to the ceiling above us. We relaxed after that. Zach's words made sense. We were somewhere under the city. There couldn't be anything here. The sound could only have come from the surface. As time went on, my earlier enthusiasm was turning into another feeling, which I refused to show to my friends, as I didn't want to tarnish my facade of a great and courageous adventurer. But I couldn't deny that little voice telling me something was wrong was getting louder. Filming Sebastian walking side by side to a wall full of piled up human bones as he said, "Look at this. This is so cool, helped me to recover a little." Until then I noticed Zach enter a different corridor and move further and further away. "Zach, don't go wandering around aimlessly. You know it's easy to get lost around here," I shouted. But Zach just responded with his typical arrogance. "Easy, Mom. I just want to take a look around these halls. Before you know I'll be back." I rolled my eyes and continued filming Sebastian. I was used to Zach's habit of drifting away from the group and somehow never getting lost. It was from that point on that our adventure turned into a nightmare. Suddenly, Zach screamed from one of the hallways, causing me and Sebastian to turn around in alarm. I shouted his name and shined the flashlight on all the corridor's entrances nearby, but I couldn't find him. Then sounds like bones creaking and clinking echo through the galleries, making my blood run cold. "Zach, this isn't funny, you bastard," I yelled loud as I shined every entrance I could see, believing Zach was purposely trying to scare us. And then I realized that Sebastian was frozen, looking with eyes filled with utter terror in my direction, more specifically behind me. And then I heard a low, inhuman snarl. Slow and terrified, I turned around. The flashlight shook in my hands, but I kept the grip as tight as I could to illuminate whatever was behind me. I had explored many unknown places in my life. I saw so many things, so many stories to tell, but I had never seen anything like it before. Before me was a creature that could only be described as something resembling a giant centipede made up mostly of several bones of various widths and thicknesses, and what appeared to be exposed tendons and muscles. In place of its head was a massive human skull with large, sharp teeth stained red, whose origin I refused to believe. That gigantic thing moved slowly with its many twisted legs towards us, staring at us with large empty eye sockets as it rose with the front part of its long body until it surpassed our height and almost touched the ceiling. For a moment, we simply stared, unable to believe what we were seeing, until the grotesque creature released a high-pitched, screeching sound that made us shiver to the bone. We ran without looking back, trying to keep a strong and steady pace, following the luminous paint that Zach used to mark the way to the exit. But it was when we heard the creature's heavy footsteps and its jaws grinding that the adrenaline took over our body. I dropped the backpack to get rid of the weight, and Sebastian did the same. At some point in the panic, I lost my flashlight and cell phone too, but at that moment material things didn't matter. Miraculously, I managed to make my escape to the exit, but when I looked back to see if that monster was still following me, I realized with horror that Sebastian was no longer behind me. I headed back to the entryway again, even though all my instincts told me not to. I screamed Sebastian's name as loud as my lungs would allow, but the darkness only answered me with silence. That experience changed me forever. I will never be the same fearless adventurer I was before. I managed to escape with my life, but the price I paid for my recklessness was high. I lost my best friends, and now I live with this bitter and deserved guilt for the rest of my life.